This villa is mine now, Mom. The movers are already outside.
Then you should warn them. The police waiting behind the guest house just heard you confess.
The day my son came to steal my villa, he brought a moving truck, a forged deed, and the confident smile of a man who believed his mother was too weak to fight back. What he did not know was that every camera in the house was recording, and the detective waiting behind the guesthouse door already knew his name. Hello. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I am 63 years old, and for most of my life, I believed being a good mother meant giving until there was nothing left of me. I paid my son's college tuition. I covered his first failed business. I paid the down payment on his car. When he married, I paid for the reception because he said he wanted his wife, Vanessa, to have the wedding she had always dreamed about. Every time I rescued him, he hugged me and said, "I'll make it up to you one day, Mom." That day never came. My husband, Frank, was no different. During our 36 years of marriage, he controlled every dollar that entered our home. He called it financial responsibility. I called it peace because arguing with him always cost more than surrendering. After our divorce, I rented a small apartment above an old flower shop in St. Petersburg, Florida. The pipes knocked at night, and the bedroom window faced a parking garage. But the apartment was mine. No one criticized the color of my curtains. No one demanded to see my receipts. For the first time in decades, silence felt safe. My son, Ryan, did not see freedom when he visited. He saw failure. He stood in my tiny kitchen one Sunday and looked around with open embarrassment. "Mom, this is depressing," he said. "You can't spend retirement living like this." Vanessa sat at my table, scrolling through her phone. "There are communities for women your age," she added. "Some of them have activities. Women my age." She said it as if I were already disappearing. I poured coffee and smiled. Neither of them knew I was waiting for the sale of a piece of land outside Charleston. The land had belonged to my Aunt Margaret, who left it to me before I married Frank. I had never mixed it with our marital money. Frank had tried to find it during the divorce, but Aunt Margaret had placed it in a protected trust years earlier. When a development company offered $4 million for that land, I accepted. I did not tell Ryan. Instead, I bought a Mediterranean-style villa near the water. It had cream-colored walls, a red tile roof, tall windows, and a courtyard filled with jasmine. There was a main house, a small guest cottage, and an office overlooking the bay. It was more house than I needed. That was exactly why I loved it. For 36 years, every part of my life had been measured by what other people thought I deserved. The villa was the first thing I chose simply because it made me happy. For 6 peaceful weeks, no one in my family knew where I lived. Then my friend Carol posted a photograph from a small dinner in my courtyard. She did not mention the address, but Ryan recognized the neighborhood. The following morning, he called me 7 times. I did not answer. At 10 o'clock, the security camera showed his silver SUV stopping at my gate. Vanessa sat beside him. Behind them was a large moving truck. That was the moment I understood they were not coming to congratulate me. Ryan pressed the intercom. "Open the gate, Mom. We need to talk." "Why is there a moving truck behind you?" I asked. There was a short silence. "It's complicated." "Then explain it from the street." Vanessa leaned across him. "Eleanor, don't make this embarrassing. The movers charge by the hour." I almost laughed. They were worried about being embarrassed, while trying to move into a house they had never been invited to enter. I opened the gate. Not because I had changed my mind. Because 3 days earlier, I had learned enough to know I needed them inside. Ryan walked through the front door without knocking. His eyes moved across the marble floor, the staircase, and the wide windows overlooking the water. "This is incredible," he whispered. For one foolish second, I waited for him to say he was happy for me. Instead, he turned to Vanessa and said, "The upstairs room can be our bedroom. The room near the courtyard will be perfect for Noah." Noah was my 6-year-old grandson. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Ryan sighed as if I were making a simple matter difficult. "Our landlord is selling the house. We have to leave by Friday. This place has 4 bedrooms and you're one person. You can take the guest cottage." "No." Vanessa blinked. "No to what?" "No to all of it. You are not moving into my home." Ryan's face tightened. "You let us struggle while you hide millions of dollars. You earn more than $100,000 a year. That doesn't go far anymore." It went far enough for the new SUV parked outside. Vanessa stepped closer. "Your grandson needs stability. Then give him stability. That is your responsibility, not mine." Ryan stared at me as if I had spoken in a language he did not understand. I had said no before, but I had never made it last. He was waiting for the familiar guilt to weaken me. It did not. He reached into his briefcase and placed a document on the table. Maybe this will help you understand. It appeared to be a quitclaim deed transferring partial ownership of the villa to him. At the bottom was a signature that looked almost exactly like mine. Almost. Ryan tapped the paper. You signed this 2 weeks ago. I own half the property. Vanessa smiled. So the movers can start now. I looked at my son. Where did you get this? You signed it at Dad's office. Your father doesn't have an office anymore. His eyes shifted for half a second. It was enough. I picked up the deed carefully. This signature is forged. Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Prove it. That was when the trap began to close. 3 days earlier, my attorney, Denise Walker, had called me. Someone had attempted to file a deed against the villa. The county clerk rejected it because the legal description of the property was incomplete. Denise checked the electronic filing account and found that the submission came from Ryan's business email. She told me to call the police. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. Then Denise showed me something worse. Ryan had also applied for a $2 million loan using the villa as collateral. The lender had not approved it, but he had provided copies of my driver's license, tax number, and bank records. Only 2 people had access to those documents, Ryan and my former husband. Detective Lena Ortiz asked me not to confront them. She believed the forged deed was part of a larger fraud. Ryan's construction company was drowning in debt, and Frank had recently begun transferring money through it. If they think the deed worked, Detective Ortiz told me, they may explain the rest in their own words. So we prepared the villa. The security system already recorded video. With a warrant and my consent, the police added audio devices in the living room and office. Detective Ortiz waited in the guest cottage with another officer. The house was not bait because it was beautiful. It was bait because Ryan believed beauty had made me careless. Standing in my living room, he still thought he was in control. You should call the movers, he told Vanessa. I placed the forged deed back on the table. Before they unload anything, I want to know why you need a $2 million loan. His face changed. What loan? Vanessa asked. Ryan ignored her. You've been going through my private records. You used my identity. It was a temporary financing arrangement. Temporary for whom? Vanessa looked from him to me. Ryan, what is she talking about? Nothing. Mom is confused. There it was, the same weapon his father had used for years. If I disagreed, I was emotional. If I noticed a lie, I was confused. If I demanded respect, I was ungrateful. But that morning, every insult became evidence. I understand perfectly, I said. Your company owes more than $900,000. Your father used it to move money from accounts he did not want the divorce court to see. You tried to borrow against my home to cover the missing funds. Vanessa stepped away from him. You told me the company had a new investor. It does. Who? Ryan's jaw tightened. My father. A slow clap came from the doorway. Frank walked into the villa. I had not invited him. Ryan must have given him the gate code while they waited outside. My former husband looked older than he had in court, but his confidence was unchanged. He wore a gray suit despite the Florida heat and carried the leather folder he had used throughout our divorce. Very dramatic, Eleanor, he said. You always did enjoy making simple problems emotional. Forgery is not a simple problem. Frank closed the door behind him. No one forged anything. You agreed years ago that Ryan would inherit everything. An inheritance begins after someone dies. Don't be childish. He walked to the bar and poured himself water as if he still owned every room I entered. Ryan needs the villa now, he continued. You need safety and supervision. We can arrange a comfortable apartment for you. Above a flower shop, perhaps, he smiled. That place suited you. Ryan looked relieved now that his father had arrived. Vanessa looked terrified. Tell her about the agreement, Ryan said. Frank opened his leather folder and removed several pages. If you challenge the deed, we will petition the court for control of your finances. We have statements from people who are concerned about your judgment. I read the first name. It belonged to Ryan. The second belonged to Frank's sister. The third was a doctor I had never met. They intended to declare me mentally incompetent. The forged deed was only the first plan. If it failed, they would try to take control of my entire life. For a moment, the old fear returned. I could almost hear Frank's voice from our marriage telling me no judge would believe me, no bank would protect me, and no child would choose me over him. Then I looked at the small red light reflected in the glass cabinet. The cameras were still recording. What exactly do you want me to sign? I asked. Frank's expression softened because he mistook my question for surrender. A family management agreement. Ryan keeps the house. I oversee the trust. You receive an allowance and remain in the cottage for as long as it is practical. And if I refuse? Ryan answered before his father could stop him. Then we file the competency case. Freeze your accounts and show the court you're unstable. Ryan, Vanessa whispered. Stay out of this. She flinched. It was small, but I saw it. Has he threatened you too? I asked her. Ryan slammed his hand against the table. Stop trying to turn my wife against me. From upstairs came the sound of a child crying. I froze. Where is Noah? I asked. Vanessa covered her mouth. Ryan looked toward the stairs. They had brought my grandson into the house, while I was speaking with Frank. One of the movers had carried him through the side entrance. I rushed upstairs and found Noah sitting beside 2 suitcases in an empty bedroom. He wore headphones and held his stuffed dinosaur against his chest. Grandma, are we living here now? He asked. My anger became cold and clear. They had used a child to make their invasion feel permanent. They expected me to see his suitcases and surrender rather than frighten him. I knelt beside him. You're safe, sweetheart. Your mom is going to take you downstairs. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, crying silently. Take him to the courtyard, I said. Now. Ryan shouted from below. No one is leaving. Vanessa gripped Noah's hand. Frank stepped into the hall and blocked the stairs. That was the mistake that ended everything. I pressed the emergency button on my bracelet. The guest house door opened. Detective Ortiz and 2 officers crossed the courtyard. At the same moment, the front gate closed automatically, trapping the moving truck and Frank's car inside the property. Frank heard the police announce themselves. His face lost all color. Ryan ran toward the office. He knew the briefcase on my desk contained the rejected loan application and copies of the forged records. He reached the office first, grabbed the papers, and tried to push them into the fireplace. But the fireplace was electric. He stared at the cold glass as Detective Ortiz entered behind him. Put the documents down, Ryan. For one wild second, I thought he might fight her. Then he looked through the window and saw another police car blocking the drive. The papers fell from his hands. Downstairs, Frank began speaking quickly. This is a misunderstanding. My former wife is vulnerable. My son and I are protecting her assets. Detective Ortiz placed the forged deed beside the loan application by borrowing $2 million against them. Frank turned toward Ryan. You filed the loan. Ryan stared at him. You told me to. I told you to prepare the documents, not file them. The silence that followed was almost beautiful. Each man had spent years believing the other would protect him. Under pressure, they abandoned each other in less than 10 seconds. He designed the whole thing. Ryan told the detective. He said Mom hid the property during the divorce. He said the villa belonged to us. Frank pointed at him. My son is desperate. His company is insolvent. He forged those papers without my knowledge. Vanessa stepped forward. They both knew. Ryan turned sharply. Be quiet. She did not. From Noah's backpack, she removed a blue phone. She had recorded conversations for 2 months. Ryan had threatened to leave her with all their debt and seek full custody if she refused to help. Frank had coached Ryan on copying my signature and creating false medical statements. Why didn't you warn me? I asked. I tried, she said. The missed call from a private number last Tuesday was me. Ryan checks my phone. I was afraid he would take Noah. She handed the phone to Detective Ortiz. Ryan moved toward her, but an officer stopped him. You betrayed me, he said. Vanessa wiped her tears. No, I finally stopped helping you betray everyone else. The officers arrested Ryan for attempted real estate fraud, identity theft, forgery, and destruction of evidence. Frank was arrested for conspiracy, financial fraud, witness intimidation, and filing false statements in the competency petition. As they led Ryan through the courtyard, he looked at me with the expression he had worn as a child whenever he broke something. Mom, please. Tell them you don't want to press charges. My heart hurt so badly that I had to grip the back of a chair. I remembered carrying him through a fever when he was 4. I remembered cheering at his graduation. I remembered every time I had paid a bill, corrected a mistake, or accepted an apology without requiring change. I had called that love. Some of it was love. Some of it was fear. And some of it had taught him that consequences were things his mother could erase. I love you, I said. But I will not destroy myself to protect the man you chose to become. He lowered his head. The gate opened, and the police took him away. The investigation lasted 9 months. Forensic accountants discovered that Frank had hidden more than $6 million during our divorce. He had moved money through Ryan's company, opened accounts using my identity, and created false debts to reduce the value of our marital estate. Ryan had not understood every part of the scheme, but messages showed he knew the deed was false. He knew the loan would place my home at risk. He had simply decided his need was more important than my right to say no. Frank went to federal prison for 12 years. Ryan accepted a plea agreement. He received 2 years in prison, 5 years of probation, and an order to pay restitution. His construction company closed. Vanessa filed for divorce. With the court's permission, she and Noah stayed in my guest cottage for 6 months. She found work, saved money, and moved into a modest apartment nearby. She always knocked before entering my home. That small act meant more to me than she realized. During Ryan's first months in prison, his letters were full of blame. He blamed his father, his debts, Vanessa, and even me. He said that if I had helped him sooner, none of it would have happened. I did not answer. Then the letters stopped. Almost a year later, one arrived with only 5 sentences. Mom, I thought your love was something I owned. I thought being your son gave me the right to everything you had. Dad taught me how to lie, but I chose to use what he taught me. I am sorry. I do not expect you to rescue me. I read it 3 times. Then I placed it in the same drawer where I kept the forged deed. Not because the apology repaired everything, but because truth deserved to be remembered beside the lie. 2 years later, Ryan was released. He did not arrive with a moving truck. He did not enter through the gate. He parked across the street and called me. Mum, he said, may I come in? Those 4 words told me he had changed more than any long speech could have. I opened the gate. He looked older and thinner. He carried no briefcase. When Noah saw him in the courtyard, he stayed close to Vanessa. Ryan knelt several feet away. Hi, buddy, he said softly. Noah did not run to him. Pain crossed Ryan's face, but he did not demand forgiveness. He simply nodded and said, I understand. We sat beneath the jasmine vines. Ryan apologized to Vanessa, then to me. He did not ask to live in the villa. He did not ask for money. He told us he had found work repairing storm-damaged houses and would pay his restitution himself. When he finished, I gave him a sealed envelope. Inside was a copy of the trust that owned the villa. He read the first page and frowned. The house isn't in your name. No. Aunt Margaret's trust purchased it. Then who inherits it? I looked at Noah, who was gathering fallen jasmine flowers near the fountain. He does. Ryan looked up. The trust gave me the right to live in the villa for the rest of my life. After my death, the house would belong to Noah. But there was also a protection clause. Any parent who attempted to seize, borrow against, or fraudulently control trust property would permanently lose authority over the child's inheritance. Ryan's hands began to shake. So when I tried to take the house, you gave up every right to control it. For a long moment, he said nothing. I expected anger. Instead, he looked toward his son. Good, he whispered. Good, until I prove I can be trusted. I shouldn't control anything that belongs to him. That was the first moment in many years when I saw my child instead of his entitlement. Noah slowly approached with a flower in his hand. He stopped in front of Ryan and placed it on the table between them. Ryan covered his face and cried. I did not tell him everything was forgiven. It wasn't. Forgiveness is not a door someone kicks open. It is a path they may be invited to walk, one honest step at a time. Over the next year, Ryan kept working. He attended counseling. He paid what he owed. He visited only when invited, and he always waited at the gate. He never asked about the villa again. One evening, as the sun turned the bay gold, he helped Noah repair a small wooden boat beside the fountain. Vanessa and I watched from the terrace. Do you regret calling the police? She asked me. I thought about the question. Calling the police had sent my son to prison. It had also stopped Frank from stealing from more people. It had protected Noah's future. And it had forced Ryan to face the one thing I had spent his entire life preventing him from facing himself. I regret that it became necessary, I said. But I do not regret choosing the truth. That night, after everyone left, I walked through the quiet villa. The marble floors reflected the moonlight. The jasmine moved in the warm wind. On the table lay the spare key Ryan had once demanded. He had returned it before leaving. For years, I believed the house was the trap that destroyed my son. I was wrong. The villa only closed the door on his lies. What destroyed him was the belief that my love gave him ownership of my life. And what finally saved us both was the word I should have learned to say many years earlier, no. Because a home is not truly yours when your name appears on the deed. It becomes yours the moment you stop apologizing for having the right to protect it. And sometimes, the strongest way a mother can love her child is to let the door close, until he learns how to knock.